Welcome to the Next Level Human podcast. As a human, you have a job to do. In fact, you have 4 jobs: to earn and manage money, to attain and maintain health and fitness, to build and sustain personal relationships, to find meaning and make a difference. None of these jobs are taught in school, and that is what this podcast is designed to do: to educate us all on living our most fulfilled lives through the mastery of these 4 jobs. I'm your host, Dr. Jade, Teta, and I believe we are here living this life for 3 reasons, and 3 reasons only: to learn, to teach, and to love. In this podcast, I will be learning, teaching, and loving right along with you. I'm grateful to have your company. Here's to our next level. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Next Level Human podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jade, Teta, and I have one of my favorite people in the world on the show today, my bestie, Jill Coleman of @JillFit, also my ex-wife, as many of you may know, although some of you may not know, and you may be surprised that it's kind of cool that me and her are still best buds, still absolutely love and adore each other. And I want to set this up, Jill, because I'm having Jill on. As you all know, this is all about the 4 jobs, right? So we got health and fitness, we've got purpose and meaning, we've got relationships, and of course we got career, finance, and wealth. And this podcast covers all of these things, but today we're going to focus on career, finance, and wealth. So for those of you who are coaches, those of you who are practitioners, and especially those of you who want to bring your expertise online, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have Jill on the show. And I'll kind of just tell a little bit of the story, then let her begin to fill some of it in. But Jill and I basically came up together in the online space back in the day when Facebook sort of was brand new. We were both blogging, doing Facebook posts. We built the company Metabolic Effect together. And it was a whole different sort of ball game at that point. And Jill was younger than me at that point, so I was slightly ahead of her in that game. And now she's way, way ahead of me in this game because she essentially parlayed all her knowledge into fitness and built her own businesses and then began to teach coaches how to do this. And that's going on, like 10 years now that you've been doing this.
Yep.
And so she is the one that when I am asking about my entrepreneurial stuff, when I'm like, hey, what should I be doing? What's the strategy? What are you doing here? How does all this work? Jill is one of 2 people that I go to with this, the other being Nicole. Spencer of Authentic Conversion, formerly of Authentic Conversion. And those 2 are my go-tos. And so I wanted to have Jill on so she can get us up to speed. And selfishly, I want to get up to speed on what works. If you're somebody who is interested in being an online entrepreneur, you're a health and fitness person, coach in this space, and you're working one-on-ones and you want to move this online, Jill is the best of the best at this. And so, Jill, welcome. And why don't you just get us sort of started wherever you want to start? Because obviously you and I have had a long journey in this, but over the last 5 years especially, you far surpassed my understanding of what's going on as I've been sort of bogged down in building programs, and you are constantly working with individuals to build programs. So I'm so interested to hear what's the latest and greatest.
Yeah, I love this. Before we turned the mic on, it was we were talking about should we go back a little bit and kind of talk about how things were back then? Because I don't know if you remember this, but we started. You started Metabolic Effect. I came on a couple years in, and at that time, we had both read this book called Inbound Marketing. And the idea behind it was you kind of put out free content, right? And this is going back to 2008, 2009, 2010. And it was a lot of just put out valuable content and the right people will find you. And so this was sort of like the blogging model. And at that time, Metabolic Effect was kind of like the premier like health and fitness online program at that time. And it was like a really well-read blog. We grew like a readership really quickly. I mean, obviously you did most of the writing, and I would guest post here and there. And then I started JillFit in 2010. And it started out as like a one-on-one coaching program for women fat loss. And within 18 months, we had like 5 coaches that work for JillFit, and we had grown to a 6-figure per year business within 18 months. And what happened was people started asking me, like, how are you doing what you're doing? Like, I kind of see my friend Shantae calls it word of obvious instead of word of mouth. It's like word of obvious. People can tell you're doing something. And so they want to ask you about it. And at that time, I was like, yes, I can help you do what I've done, which is just blog every single day. And you know this about me. I'm not that person. Like I didn't have the top credential. I wasn't the leanest person, the most connected. Like I wasn't really the smartest person. I was a terrible writer, but I was good at one thing. And that was consistency. Fucking showed up every single day for 2 years straight and blogged on that site. And
still showing up every single day.
still consistent. It's my one thing. But I mean, also we can talk about this too, but consistency is what we call a safety trigger. Like, for example, if I don't see you post or I don't see a piece of content from you or you're not emailing your list for months, I think you're out of business. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, God, I do have an email list, but they haven't heard from me for 6 months, maybe this is a reminder that like they need to hear from you, especially if you want to do this. And I don't know if you remember this, Jade, but I was about 18 months into JillFit, and at that time, I was like kind of stuck. All my coaches were full of one-on-one clients. I was maxed out. I was still working full time, and I reached out to who became my first mentor, Rachel Cosgrove, and I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, do you do business coaching?" And she said, "Sure. Why don't we do a 30-minute phone call? And it's $375." And I was like, "Come again?" $375 for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm like a personal trainer at the time, right? Like I'm just like, I'm charging like $17 for 30 minutes. This is wild to me. And I remember thinking, if this woman can charge this for this amount of time, I need to figure out what she knows. So I paid it on PayPal. We got on the call. And at the end of that, she pitched me on her $10,000 mastermind. And I remember being like, $10,000. Now, of course, we see these numbers all the time. Oh, this mastermind's 25K, 35K, whatever. This is back in 2012. And I remember being like, is she insane? Like, that's a car. Like, I didn't even have a credit card that went up to $10,000. And I was like, okay, I'll let you know. Get off the phone, of course, having they're definitely not going to do it. Like, is she insane? I can't afford that, like most people do. And I let it go for a couple weeks. And it was you who said, Jill, we got to figure out how you can do this. Like you need this. We got to figure out how to do this. And I'll never forget that moment because I went ahead and created my very first business course called Best of You out of that to make the money to pay Rachel. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but I can at least show someone what I've done. And it was at the time, it was like a fitness and nutrition, little mindset, and also business. Made $17,000 that very first launch, paid Rachel. And I was just like, wow, this is the first course I've ever created. Like this works. And so I always credit you. Whenever I tell that story, I always credit you with that because if it weren't for you just saying like, Jill, you got to figure this out. And of course, anyone who knows you knows that you're that kind of possibility thinker for people. But after that, I realized how important it was to invest. And like, of course, that's your value system too. But it's like, once you have that first investment, and of course, from then we ended up tripling the revenue the year after I worked with Rachel. And then I kept investing in different masterminds and courses and mentorships and things like that. And I realized that business was really where I was supposed to be. I love fitness and nutrition. Like that'll always be a love of mine. But if I'm going to a conference, it's a business conference. I'm not going to a health conference. I'm not doing that. So in the last several years, we've really gone hard on the business stuff. And in right around the pandemic, decided to scale the business. And now we're at about 1.3 per year. And we have 6 full-time team members. And yeah, we do mostly business coaching for health and wellness pros. So it has been a long ride. It's definitely changed quite a bit. I don't recommend people start with a blogging model anymore. But yeah, we can definitely get into what's working now, especially if you're in the first couple, maybe year or two of being an online coach. You're a fitness, nutrition, wellness professional, and you want to learn how to take clients online so you don't need to be seeing a dozen people across the desk every day.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Breaking into the show real quick because I want to tell you about a brand new absolutely free offer from Next Level Human. And you are going to love this, and it is going to give you fantastic results for your health and fitness. Right now, the research area in health and fitness is all abuzz with something called VILPA. vigorous, intermittent lifestyle physical activity, otherwise known as exercise snacks or exercise bursts. Think about it this way. You wake up in your day at 8 a.m., you do 1 or 2 minutes of intense activity. Then you go about your day. Couple hours later, you do it again. Couple hours later, again. Couple hours later, again, and maybe finally again in the evening. And what this does, this very short 1 to 3 minute intermittent bursts spread out throughout the day, give you similar benefits to your traditional intense exercise. In fact, a 2022 study in Nature Medicine found that this reduced cancer risk by 40%, cardiovascular disease by 40%. And this was just 4 bouts of 1 to 3 minute intermittent activity throughout the day. When they looked at doing more than that, up to 11 bouts, it was a 65% reduction for cardiovascular events. This is incredibly powerful. And what I wanted to do is offer this free to the Next Level Human community. All you need to do is go to drjade.com/snacks. Register absolutely free to get these via email. And more importantly, all you need to do is put your text number in, your mobile number in, and we will text these to you 4 times throughout the day. Follow along intermittent workouts that you can do. These short, intense 1 to 3 minute workouts in video and audio format that you can get to your text, turn on, get them done super quick, and then be done. And the beautiful thing about this, you can do them anywhere during your day because they're so short. You do not need to sweat. You won't need to shower afterwards. This is an incredibly powerful way for us to get the physical fitness benefits that we need to keep our bodies healthy and fit. And I have seen very effective results for people with weight loss as well. So go over to drjade.com/snacks. Get these intermittent, vigorous activity snacks of 1 to 3 minutes free to your email and your text, and start getting results with your health and fitness and improving your health right now. drjade.com/snacks. I hope you really love this free service from Next Level Human. And let's get back to the show. Yeah, I love this. And, let's start with, I think what most people I think there's going to be 2 people listening to this, right? Someone who's just like, wow, this is interesting, but they've never actually even thought about this. And then other people who've tried and really have gotten no traction. And usually both people are going to kind of go towards, okay, they're doing something on social media. And, so this is the first place that we start. And when you and I first started, I remember, I remember better when Facebook stopped showing all of my posts to everybody, right? Like I know that's the part that I really was like, okay, things are different now and things got way harder. But there was a time when I was doing Metabolic Effect that I would post something on Facebook and every single person who followed Metabolic Effect saw that. In fact, I think I did my first launch literally on Facebook, just in Facebook.
I think you literally posted one time, and I think you did $10,000 from one single post when you rolled out like the 8-week female fat loss formula. I think it was one single post, and you made 10 grand on that one post. And this is back in like 2010.
Yeah, and it was blowing you and me away at the time, right? At the time, I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing
free money.
And easy. Yeah, free money. And like, we were doing some really amazing good work. But then all of a sudden, what I remember the most is when Facebook essentially shut that off. And I'll walk you through, Jill, because you and I haven't quite talked about all this. You've heard some of this from me. But I'll tell you, like, one of the things about me when it comes to social media is I'm always late to the game. And I don't love social media in general. And I don't love, and I don't love sharing my life with everybody. It's just not, necessarily who I am. However, obviously, I have always been all in on social media, and I am looking for the latest, greatest strategies. And so I guess what I want to know is that where would you start? And let's just say, like, obviously I have a social media following. I would say, and I've talked to you about this, most of my social media following is not dead, but very asleep, partly because of, what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And so this is applicable to me the same as it is to all of you listeners. And so if you're trying to wake up your social media following the way I am, and or just use social media to get attention, or you're starting from the beginning, what is it that you would say? What are the things that we don't know that we need to start doing?
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that you sort of hate social media, because I think this is really common. This is actually one of the biggest obstacles for people to start doing an online business. And it's more than just I hate social media, right? The doom scrolling, the trolls, the haters, like all of that kind of stuff. That's been there forever. I think what people mean when they say they hate it is because they feel like, I don't want to say it's a sellout, but they're worried they're going to annoy their friends and family. They're worried people are going to be like, what are they doing? They're worried they're going to look stupid. And they're also like, why would someone, we get this all the time at JillFit, why would someone care what I have to say? And I get that. And especially if you're listening to this and maybe you just got your personal training certification or some kind of credential, and you're like, God, I feel so behind the eight ball. Like, so many people have been doing this for so long and they're so much further along than me, and they're saying it better than me. And they've been saying it better. So why would anyone listen to me? Now, one of the things, the reason why we even focus on social media for those people who are newer, because here's the thing, social media is not a business. Social media is a very important part of business, but it's not a business. I think a lot of people come on and go, I just need more followers. I'll be honest, my very first online clients were people I knew in person. My very first online clients were my friends and family, people I went to high school with. These people are not necessarily going to end up being my ideal client. But if that's all you have access to, that's the audience you have access to, our friends, family, acquaintances, people you went to high school with, whatever. Those people don't right now, they maybe don't see you as a health person. They see you as the person who worked with them at, Target when you were 20 years old, right? That's how they see you. So in order for people to even see you as an expert, you have to start sharing expert content. And so, I usually recommend most people start with what I call solutions posts. And this is a slow burn, y'all. If you came here because you want a shortcut, because we're going to tell you how to make, $1 million overnight, or you want to go viral on social, that's not my expertise. My expertise is helping you create what I call a legacy business, something that's like a career. Like, it's not like I'm trying to go viral and like hack the system. It's like, I want to create an amazing audience of super fans that anytime I need cash, it's kind of like I can get a cash infusion, right? It's kind of like this on-demand sort of ATM, not to belittle the fact that these are actual people, but social media is the best place to start because that's where your potential clients are already hanging out. They're not hanging out on your website. They're not hanging out on your email list. They're not hanging out in your DMs. So as much as your website and your email list and your offers and all that kind of stuff is how you make money, right now we have to go to where we have access to people who are potential clients for you. And so the first thing is, we can talk about solutions post in a second, but the most important thing in 2024 across the board is niching down across the board. And what I mean by that is, the more recent that you've come online, the more imperative is that you niche down faster. So for example, Jade and I have been doing this a long time. So, we can have our hand in multiple different things because we've sort of broken through what we call the trust barrier. So for example, maybe you guys listen to Jade because he knows a lot about metabolism and he's, the best at understanding the hormones and all this kind of stuff. And then when he talks about personal development, you're interested in his take on it because you already had a win with him when it came to fitness and nutrition. And so this makes a lot of sense. We call trust translates. And so once you've built trust within one single area, then you can go into other niches. But if you're just getting started, you can't be a jack of all trades. You can't be like fitness, nutrition, mindset, habit change, like all these things that we love. We have to niche down even faster. You can kind of think about it like this, and we can talk about how to niche down in a second. You can kind of think about it like this. When I was a kid, I would go to this ice cream shop. I grew up in Boston, and it was this ice cream shop called Brigham's. And it was like an old-timey ice cream shop, and there's like 5 flavors. There was chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate chip, I don't know, whatever, Oreo or something. And I remember, like, you'd go to it and you're like, oh, all of these are fine. I guess I'll have chocolate because that's of the 5, that's the one I like the most. Now, if you go to a Cold Stone Creamery in 2024, there's 5 different varieties of just chocolate. There's double chocolate, triple chocolate, chocolate chunk, death by chocolate. That's what's happening with the coaching industry. Back when Jade and I started, Jade was chocolate, I was strawberry, this person over here was, coffee. And now people have the pick of the litter when it comes to their coach. The specificity between coach and client, that matching system is more specific than it's ever been, which means that it's not enough to just be like, I'm smart. Like yes, you need to be an expert. That's day one stuff. But you also need to pay attention to all of the other things that build trust, like relationships and some of the stuff Jade was talking about, which is sharing a little bit more about yourself, sharing your values, sharing your personality, sharing how you do what you do, even pulling back the curtain on some of your personal life. Now, I don't think you need to be on, your phone every single second talking about, hey guys, here I am with, and like recording your entire day. But something that's going to set you apart. Only one person gets to be the smartest. Only one person gets to be the best looking. Only one person gets to be the leanest. So you have to think to yourself, I'm here to solve problems for people. And who specifically do I solve that for? And how do I solve it in a unique way? And so when we get to niching down, it's really important that you niche down even faster than you think. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So obviously from my perspective, this means that when you get online, you don't just go on there and essentially say, I'm going to put up fitness content. It's like, I'm going to put up fitness content for women of this age bracket suffering from this particular condition who have children, let's say.
That's
right?
it.
So it's like you niche down. And then what I'm hearing you say is that it has to be solutions based, right?
Yes.
So certainly for me, and I'll share all this with all of you, the way I approach social media when I am just not being serious about business is just post whatever I'm interested in that day, whatever I'm reading or whatever thought pops in my head. And it sounds like also what you're saying, Jill, is that okay, you need to actually be posting stuff and run it through the does this help somebody filter? Is this a solution that particular person, that niche can actually use?
And I would say,
is that what you mean by solution posts?
Yeah. So like when you share like little research articles you're reading or stuff, to me, all of that's great for you because that's what we call your knowables. One of your knowables is I like reading research. So while there's no like actionable takeaway or something to do, you can think about solutions posts like someone can leave and do something. So can they try something based on this post? So, people go and read research but there's a personality aspect to you sharing the stuff you're excited about. To me, that's not necessarily, it doesn't have utility necessarily, except for the fact that it gets people to understand your world better. And you as a creator and you as a coach and, you as a course creator and things like that. So a solutions post is really simple. And if you're thinking to yourself, like, how do I know what this is? Once you kind of understand your ideal client, and there's three things you need to know about your ideal client. The first thing is you need to know what their current struggles, obstacles, challenges are. Now, not necessarily like demographics. This, if you've ever done like a niching down exercise, people are like, it's a Midwest mom, 36 years old, makes $60,000 a year, 2.5 kids. We don't really care about demographics anymore. We care about what we call psychographics. And psychographics is, how is this person thinking? So a lot of times people will say, oh, busy moms or overwhelmed moms or frustrated moms. This is like a 1.0 way to niche down. But I would even challenge you to get even more specific, because using words like overwhelmed, stuck, frustrated, like these are fine, except they're not specific enough. Everyone's overwhelmed. Everyone's stuck. Everyone's frustrated. So what I like to give people an insight into is using what we call the camera scenario. If I was following this frustrated mom around all day long with my camera, what would she be doing? What does frustration look like? What does overwhelm look like? So I'm going to definitely connect stronger with my audience. Instead of saying, are you an overwhelmed mom? I'm going to say, are you a mom of young kids who every single morning you're yelling at one of your kids to find their shoes, you're yelling at the other kid to put his jacket on 10 times, you're always, no matter what you do, 10 minutes late out the door. Is that you? And someone's going, yeah, that's exactly me. That's when I'm going to connect. I'm not going to connect with the more vague description of overwhelmed, stuck things. This is like getting into messaging a little bit, but you have to think about more specifically, what do these words look like? And I think you do this really well, Jade, in general. Like, I think this is something that you probably do already. And maybe if it's like self-evident if I'm saying it, but I see so many people not getting the coaching bites that they're looking for on social media because they're way too vague. And so if you can just make this one shift into the camera scenario, how is someone going through their day? When I told you guys the story about Bringham's, you're probably picturing it in your head. You're like, I can picture this like tiny little old timey ice cream shop, right? So you need to think about getting specific in how you're reaching this person. So then you can come with the solution for what does that mom need in that moment? What's the solution that can help her? What's one little tool, strategy, insight that can help her in that morning routine? Now, if you're thinking to yourself, like maybe that's too niche down. Jill, I work with moms, but not every single mom has that exact story. That's okay because there's going to be a mom who's like, well, I don't have that, but for me, it's at dinner time. At dinner time, my kid's like throwing the food on the floor and like wants to get down and doesn't want to eat the broccoli and whatever. So they're going to extrapolate in their mind another scenario that sounds like the one you described. And in this way, you're going to connect much more strongly and someone's going to go, holy shit, I don't even know what Jill has for me, but she's speaking my language and it's like she's in my head. I need whatever she's got because she totally gets me. And so this comes down to like, are we connecting with the right person because we understand their world? And then are we giving them actionable tools and strategies to try to start getting some low risk wins with us before they actually, buy something? So this would be all in a free capacity. This would be just one example of a kind of post that you could do on social.
Yeah, this is really interesting because, obviously, ironically, and I think most of you listening to this know me as a female hormone person, probably even still. And one of the reasons that I think that happened was because I was working with mostly women and I was watching and listening and able to literally repeat or at least say stuff like, listen, I've worked with women and they are different people. They respond differently to their diets at different times of their cycles. And that's different than a man. And just that little bit of me understanding the scenario of a woman who's craving ice cream at particular times of her cycle. I think just, I never thought about it that way, but I think that kind of thing, just being observant, even though I'm not a woman, I've never had menses, I'm not going to go through menopause. I was just being observant and repeating what I essentially saw. So I really like that idea of the idea of following someone around with a camera, because
What are
obviously
they
as a
doing?
clinician, you're sitting there listening to their stories all day, every day. So all I was doing was repeating those stories back to people.
And people were seeing themselves in those stories. So when you write an email and you're like, hey, let me tell you about this woman I worked with who went on vacation and all of a sudden she lost 10 pounds, even though she was eating, drinking and eating and stuff like that. People are picturing that vacation in their head. They're picturing that woman in their head and going, gosh, maybe I could. Right now, it now becomes much more applicable. So the more specific the example, the more universal it becomes. And I just want to give you guys a couple examples of niching down. If you're scared to niche down, this happens quite a bit where people, especially if you come from the in-person, if you're a physician, practitioner, a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, you probably have worked with a lot of different types of people, right? You're at the mercy of who walks through the gym door. I remember when I was personal training, I had like an 85-year-old dude who was, osteoporotic. I had a 35-year-old postpartum mom. I had a 19-year-old kid who wanted to be a motocross racer. Like I trained all these people. So when you come online, you kind of think to yourself, well, I could help all of these different people. How can I choose? And I have a client, I've had clients, one of my previous clients, she was a postpartum coach for rock climbers. And she was doing like 6 figures online as a postpartum coach for just female rock climbers. I know someone else who has a 7-figure business teaching people how to take pictures of pets, how to be a pet photographer, 6-7-figure business. So like, guarantee there's someone out there who needs what you have. You just have to have the courage to rip the Band-Aid off and draw a line in the sand and be okay leaving those people behind and really doubling down on this thing. If I see 2 posts that say the same exact thing, the same exact type of coach, same credential, but this person, uses cuss words, and that's me, I'm going to choose this person. I'm not saying that's a tactic, by the way, but it could be something as small as that gets someone to want to work with you versus someone else. Or you have a dog, or you have kids, or you live at the beach, or whatever that is. That could be the deciding factor. And so I want you guys to think about, not that the space is too saturated. That's something we hear people a lot say. The space is not saturated, sophisticated, which means that people do have the pick of the litter. And you need to, if you want people to see you as different, you have to bring those things up. You have to talk about those things. You have to niche down.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. So okay, so here's the whole thing then. So let's go into the actual posts and actual, places to post, because obviously, like when I think of this, I think of just face to camera. Some people don't necessarily love that. So are there any things that you've learned that basically like these are the types of posts that you should be doing? So obviously solution posts, are there different types of solution posts, or are there just different, is solution post just one type of post and there's a bunch of others? I'm curious about how to do them, right? Because you see
Mhm.
different types of posts all over the place, and depending on where you are, like TikTok, you see, I don't know, dancing and skits, not so much anymore, but you did in the beginning, right? And, Facebook, you see certain things, and
Mhm.
Substack, you see certain things, and Instagram, you see certain things. So, what are the
Mhm.
rules or tricks of the trade as far as that goes?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like what's quote unquote what's working from like a media perspective, that's always going to change, right? That's
Mm.
based on the algorithm. Like a year ago it was all reels, and now it's like, oh, they're like, oh, we're going to prioritize carousel posts. I will say, if you are someone who has less than 10,000 followers on social media, Instagram specifically came out, or Meta came out and said, hey, we're going to prioritize your accounts, which is really cool because they're like, we're going to prioritize showing your posts and pushing them out to non-followers. So if you're scared and you're like only have 600 followers, like it's prime time for you. This is a great time for you to be prolific. So in terms of like what types of posts, I mean, I think just a variety. I think it is a skill, and this, there's a skill to speaking on the internet. I know that kind of sounds strange. This is one of the biggest barriers for folks who are coming in and they're nervous because they've never done that before. I find that personal trainers and group fitness instructors do this well because they're used to projecting and holding space in a room. They're used to telling people what to do. Go over here, click on that, do this squat. Here's how you do it, move that. They're used to that kind of, I don't know what it is, maybe leadership. And so I think they do the best on video. So I do see that people who have in person experience tend to do better and faster online. But solutions posts are very simple. It is connecting with the person you're trying to connect with. So it's speaking to that niche. Like, are you a busy mom who has a hard time getting your kids out the door and you're always running 10 minutes late? Great, this is for you. Then it's a solution. And solutions are super simple. Just take 10 minutes, set a timer on your phone, and do a brain dump on all of the frequently asked questions or common concerns that these people have. So, what are they saying? What are they asking? And as a personal trainer, it was really easy for me because I was having these conversations in person all the time with people. They were like, after the workout, what should I be eating? What's the best protein powder? What should I be, how long should I wait to, so they were asking you those questions, and you could just literally turn around and turn that into a post. There's no such thing as being too simple. You have to remember who you're trying to reach. You and I, Jade, we love biochemistry. We get into the weeds and stuff. And if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're a practitioner who loves biochemistry and, getting into all that kind of stuff. Average client doesn't give a shit. They're like, look, I just need to lose 20 pounds, so I will eat or drink whatever you tell me to do to get there. So I know we can get into the weeds and we get excited to talk the science and like really, and we also want to press our peers on a certain level, right? We want them to see us as smart or whatever. I would justify. But what I see, my clients who do the best do not care what their peers think. They immediately speak to that person who's just like, I want the result. And I will also say with this, you need to speak their language. So, what I mean by that is, I see a lot of newer coaches online, health fitness people who are on the other side of the transformation. They've already lost the weight. They've already, resolved their relationship with food. They've already, got the 300-pound deadlift, whatever it is, right? They're on the other side of the transformation and they speak that language. They'll be like, do you want a better relationship with food? And I'm like, that person who's binging every single weekend doesn't even know what that is. They don't even know they have a bad relationship with food. That's the language you use because on the other side of it, you realized that that's what it was. So when I was deep in my sort of food obsession, body obsession, if someone said to me, hey, Jill, do you want to have a better relationship with food? I'd be like, no, I just need to lose 10 pounds immediately. Like that wasn't the language I was using. So if you're using things like it's all about your mindset, it's like, yes, it is, but you only know that because that looking back on your transformation, you were like, oh, it was so much mindset. But the person who was in your shoes 5 years ago, 10 years ago, isn't saying that. They're saying, I'm stuffed into my clothes. I walk into my closet and nothing fits. You need to speak to that pain point. It can't be like, I know you care about weight loss, but let's talk about mindset. Doesn't work. You need to speak their language. And it's okay to say, hey, I can help you lose 10 to 20 pounds in the next 6 months and keep it off for good. Then guess what? Once they become a client, then you start implanting some of the other awesome stuff about mindset and habit change and all those cool things that we love. And so solutions post, just make sure you're speaking the language of the ideal client and you are giving them something to try. That's the big deal. Then the second type of post that, like, I have the six, what I call the 6 S's of social media posts. The next one is stories. And stories are useful because people can see themselves in the story. And so if you tell a story about your own transformation, whether it's what we call your macro story, like I used to be obsessed with food, I used to be obsessed with my body, I used to try and lose weight constantly, I did this all or nothing thing, whatever. And then now I'm doing things like this. I mean, that would be useful. But what I find is even more useful are what we call micro stories. Like in this instance, for example, I haven't told Jade this is a little bit of a confession, but I drink diet soda now, which I never used to do. Right? I mean, when you met me, I was drinking a whole bunch of Diet Pepsi. Yeah. But so a micro story would be like, you know what? Back when I was obsessed with my body and obsessed with food, I would have looked at a Diet Coke and been like, oh, it's poison. But what I didn't realize was not drinking the Diet Coke made me, eat an entire pan of brownies like 3 days later. Now I'm just like, you know what, Jill, it's fine. Have a Diet Coke. It's going to take the edge off. It's not that big of a deal, right? So like that would be a micro story of me sharing a little piece, an instance in time of what is different. Now, if you're like Jade and your ideal client is not a previous version of you, then you have to have a lot of experience with this person, just like Jade does. So he's seen literally hundreds, if not thousands of people in his clinic, women who are dealing with hormonal issues. And so he knows that inside and out. So if it's not, your ideal client is not a previous version of you, then you really do need a lot of clinical reps with that person to know how to speak their language and how to tell stories about your clients. And that's one of the things that I love about your email newsletter, Jade, is that you always tell stories about your clients, right? Obviously anonymously, but you do it in a way that teaches and people can see themselves in those stories. And so that's a really important part of connection.
Yeah, I love it. So what's the next one? What's the next S?
So the next S, is superpowers. So superpowers is like, these are what we call your knowables. These are the things that have nothing to do with your expertise, but are things that people remember of you. So for example, a couple of years ago, I got a new car and I posted on my stories like, hey, you guys, I'm getting a new car. Guess what I'm getting? I got more DMs than I've ever gotten in my entire life. And of course, I take it personally because people said stuff like a Prius. It's a good branding exercise. Like, you really see me as a Prius. Like, okay. But it was cool to see from a branding perspective. But the reason why I got so many messages was because everyone has a car. Everyone drives. Everyone has a license. So there's a connection point there. If I had posted like, hey, you guys, I'm getting my blood labs done. Guess which labs I'm getting, right? Like, maybe the clinic, the people who practitioners would maybe have guessed. So you want to think about what are the things about you that have nothing to do with your expertise that you're going to strategically incorporate into your content. So I always love when you share Stoey on your stories because she's so cute. If you guys don't know, that Jade has a Pomeranian Husky mix, and I do too. And this is one of my knowables. People know my dog. Like if I go to a live event, people are like, is Pip coming? This is a connection point. Other people love dogs too. And so it's like they have a dog. People send me pictures of their dogs all the time. So you'll know what your knowables are, your superpowers are, because people will tag you in stuff. Like, say you're someone who like loves margaritas, right? People are like, oh my God, I had a marg and thought of you. Maybe that's not the best. If you're a health person, maybe that's not the best branding. But those are some of the things when people repeat back to you your knowables, then you know that you're connected. It's like a Me Too opportunity, right? And so this is really important for building relationships. People need to know, oh, your significant other and you do something on the weekend that's really cool. You have a couple of kids, they both play hockey, right? Like it's these kind of things, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but then you have to strategically incorporate that. That's why people love reality television, right? We love to know the storylines, the characters. I have a client of mine who has 2 teenage boys and she's constantly playing pranks on them. And it's so funny to me. Like I'm kind of invested. I'm like, oh my God, what did Drew do? Like, I don't even know these people, but because I care about her and I feel connected to her, I don't have kids, don't want kids, but it's kind of cool to see. And I feel invested in that. And it's kind of fun to watch. And so this is, however, to the level you want to do this, I know it feels kind of self-indulgent. I know, especially for you, Jade, this is probably the thing that you don't love sharing the most. But how many messages do you get or how many likes do you get when you share Story? People are like, more Story all the time. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if I post Story, I get more everything.
This is why, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, are constantly posting like tools and tips and strategies, recipes and workouts, and then you share a picture of like you and your spouse on vacation, a million likes, right? And then you go, how come this gets a million likes? Because people want to know, like, we're nosy and people love and all that kind of stuff, right? But it doesn't mean that you should only post of your family, but you should include that. So I like Superpowers on stories, not necessarily main feed posts. Main feed posts are mostly around like, solutions posts, stories, maybe inspirational type posts, things like that. Superpowers do well in your Instagram and Facebook stories.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Breaking into the show real quick, I want to tell you about a signature program from Next Level Human. And I want to start out by asking you, what is the major thing that is keeping most people from getting the results, the transformation they want in their 4 jobs? What keeps people stuck in health and fitness, in finance and career, in personal relationships, and in finding deep purpose and meaning? Well, from my perspective, the thing that is keeping them stuck is that they think they're supposed to find these things elsewhere. They think they're supposed to be studying podcasts and gurus and documentaries and books and blogs and all of these things. But the fact of the matter is there is only one rule in personal development and health and fitness, and that rule is do what works for you. Now, if you're going to follow the rest of the self-development and health and fitness world, what they're going to tell you is they're going to say, do it my way. Do it this way. Become a carnivore person. Become a paleo person. Learn some communication skills. Change your habits and your behaviors, and you're going to get the results. All you have to do is follow my recipe, my cookbook tactic, my one-size-fits-all way of doing things. And this does not work, and this keeps us stuck. And so what I wanted to do is create a one-stop shop that gives you all the things you need to create and build a program that works for you in all your 4 jobs. What if there was a hub, a membership that had workout libraries, that had course libraries, that had 24/7 access to ask questions, that had live trainings every month, that had live Q&As every month, that gave you everything you needed to learn what works for you, to master what works for you, and to create and build a lifestyle you can love, live with, and get results from. Teach you a process, not a protocol. And what if all of this, which by the way is crammed with $2,000 worth of value, what if all of that was just available for $20 per month? That's what we have done with the Next Level Human Inner Circle. It is a complete membership, complete with Facebook community, workout library, course library, 24/7 chat access, access to me for Q&As, access to me to see as your personal coach, all the things that you need to get results that match you and your unique physiology, psychology, preferences, and practical circumstances. The Inner Circle is the thing that I wanted to create that every single person could get access to because it's about as cheap as a weekly coffee habit. The Inner Circle is what I believe is going to change you being stuck in your personal development and your health and fitness, because it will teach you a process and give you all the education needed and all the wisdom needed to get results. To get involved with the Inner Circle, all you have to do is go to drjade.com/inner circle. That's drjade.com/inner circle. I cannot wait to work with you inside the Next Level Human membership community, the Inner Circle. Please go over there right now. Go ahead and sign up, and I will see you on the other side. Yeah, that's the hard one for me, but it sounds like that, there's that whole know, like, trust thing, right?
Totally.
So it sounds like these go in that sort of know and, like sort of aspect of this, right? So
Totally.
how many of these are you going to post though? Is this like a once a week thing, or like a once a day thing?
Yeah. I mean,
Because to me, I think some people might get, for me, it's not necessarily comfortable to talk about myself. So I know I want to do that, but it's bare minimum. And then I see other people doing it constantly,
all day
which
long.
makes me go, are they actually running a business, or are they just sharing their life? Like, so there's got to be, a balance. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, think about it like this:
feedback on that.
what we call like the trust formula, right? The trust formula. You said it. People need to know you like you trust you, and the trust formula is authority plus relatedness times time. So authority post would be like solutions post. Is this person an authority? Do they have something that can help me? Like if you're a business owner, you're a solution, you're a problem solver, right? That's what you are. That's what you get paid for. So people need to know what you know. And I know something that Jade, when we were early days of Metabolic Effect, it was because Metabolic Effect was sort of a proprietary workout and a system. We didn't really talk about it that much on social media until we like ripped the band-aid off and we're like, okay, we have to share what we know. And that's when the business really started taking off. So if you're here and you're like, I don't want to share my tools because then what will someone pay me for? It's kind of like me going to, I don't know, West Elm and wanting to get a couch. And I'm like, hey, do you have a red couch? And they're like, yeah, we got one in the back. And you're like, awesome. Can I take a look at it? And they're like, oh no, but trust us, it's in the back. Like that. So you have to share your solutions because people need to know how you can help them. And so the solutions piece is probably like the main type of post. Stories are also great. Superpowers will go in your stories, and they'll just be like a condiment, right? Like to me, just sprinkle it around a little bit. We want people, and this is when you get DMs being like, "Oh my god, me too," or they're sending you a picture of their dog, or they're like, "That's so cute," or whatever. All of that's really important relationship building, right? That's part of the relatedness piece of the trust formula. And then I said times time or times reps. So trust by nature takes time to build. But also, if you want it to go faster, publish more. They need to see you more, right? So just publish more if it's times like prompts. The fourth S is system. This would be your specific methodology or your specific way that you do it. This is the thing I think, Jade, that you're definitely the best at, which is coming up with frameworks that are memorable for people. And so this is and by the way, you guys, this is how you're going to set yourself apart. Like, like the credentials, you're not going to set yourself apart with the credentials. Like everyone kind of has the same credential, unless you're like a PhD, MD, ND, like something like that. But most people have around the same credential. It's not going to be the thing that's going to set you apart.
And but even with the credential nowadays,
totally.
people just don't. If you could be an MD and people don't like you, and an ND people like you more, or vice versa, it's like, it's So it's crazy right now.
Totally.
If you're a credentialed person, you may even be frustrated by the fact that people are out there doing your work that have no credentials. And that's why I say oftentimes credentialed people have a resistance to doing this stuff. But if you're not teaching it, somebody else is. And actually, this is a quote I think I got from you, Jill. Maybe you got it from somebody, but the expert is the person out there doing the thing, right? Like, that's the thing that I think I got that from you. It's like,
no, I usually say the person who has the right to do it is the one doing it. Yeah, the person who has the right to do it is the one doing it. Like, I agree with you. I work with a lot of PTs and a lot of chiros, and they're like, people are out here, or like our health coaches are getting a weekend certification and they're teaching what I know, and they're positioning themselves as like movement professionals. And I'm like, yeah, but are they getting a result for somebody? Right? We don't know. Like, I mean, the idea of policing the internet is wild to me. Like, how could you ever?
We just need people out there doing their thing. And that's part of the next level human ethos. The ethos is that, look, there's only one you. There's only ever been one you. There'll never be another you. There never was a you before now. And you have a unique thing that you need to do and that you can do in the way that you can do it. And that is the idea. You go out there and you teach. And the social media, what I do love about social media is that it gives us the ability to do our thing, to do our work, work being the way we make a difference, our job being the way we make money. Obviously, a lot of you are listening to this right now because you want those two things to be the same. Jill and I get to have our work and our job be the same thing, which is amazing. And I would want that for everyone. And the only way you do that is just get out there and start, teaching.
Yeah. And that's the thing is when we talk about system or methodology, a lot of people are like, well, what I teach isn't that. It's what everyone says, right? Eat protein, lift weights, go for walks. I'm like, yeah, but you have a specific way that you do it. So if let's say you got a one-on-one client, brand new one-on-one client, what would you do with them first? And they're like, oh, well, we'd make sure they were getting like at least 100 grams of protein a day. I'm like, awesome. How do you help someone do that? And they're like, well, usually 30 grams at breakfast. I'm like, cool. How do you help someone? Do you give them meal plans? Do you give them recipes? Do you give them meal prep tips? Like, how do you get them to do that? And they're like, oh, yeah, I have this little, hack that I use. And I'm like, great, that's part of your system. So don't make the mistake of thinking that just because you're saying something similar than a lot of other people out here, that you don't have a specific system or method that you do to get someone to do 10,000 steps. Or even if you say weight train, I'm like, what kind of weight training? Bodybuilding, powerlifting, Metcons? Like what type, what's your IP? What's the specific way you do it? Now, the key with system is it creates safety for people. This is really important. It creates safety for potential clients. So for example, if I get on a sales call and I'm like, yeah, hey, Susan, we're going to, when you work with me, we'll just talk about your eating. We'll talk about your exercise and, we'll just see what we need to change. And it'll be great. That's one way. Or it can be like, hey, Susan, let me just share with you the 5-step process that all of my clients need to master in order to get the result. You have to master these big 4 pillars because this is where we get to the, it's for some people it takes 6 weeks, some people it takes 6 months, but I want to share with you why we have to master these 5 things. That's going to feel so much more guaranteed to that potential client than just random coaching. So you want to think about, how can I organize the things that I teach to create a sense of guarantee or a sense of like tried and true feeling for someone who's on the fence. And I will say one of the biggest changes we're seeing in 2024 is that more and more people are coming in with baggage. They're coming in with bad coaching experiences. They're coming in with bad, investments. They're coming in where people didn't deliver. So when Jade and I first started, we were people's very first online coach. Like people were like, I've never done this before, right? So like it was really, I don't want to say it was easier. In a way it was, but now every single time someone comes into my programs, they're like, I've been burned by 3 business coaches. How is this different? So I have to put my marketing hat on and get better at communicating how I am different and pivot away from all of those bad experiences. So it kind of sucks, but if you're a health and wellness professional, you can't afford to just learn health and wellness. You have to learn business at this point, because this is how you're going to separate yourself from all of those bad experiences and all those failed attempts that people have coming into your programs now. More people have just done more programs. And so the system creates safety. It's like, okay, if I just follow the plan, I'm going to get the result. And so that's the 4th S.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Breaking into the show really quickly, I want to tell you about the brand new metabolic female workout system from Next Level Human. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that men and women need to train differently? In fact, let's ask a more simple question. Do you think that male and female physiology is different enough to warrant a different approach to diet, exercise, supplements, and lifestyle? Now, the fact remains that men and women certainly can do the same programs and get results, but should they? Women have 2 major sex steroids, men have 1. Women go through 4 or 5 different hormonal stages in life. Men go through 2. Female hormones fluctuate throughout the month. Male hormones stay pretty static. There are some major differences in male and female physiology and psychology. And in fact, I have spent my whole career trying to understand those differences. And that's why I developed the first female-only workout program back in 2015 called Metabolic Renewal. Millions of people have done this workout program. Millions of women have changed their bodies and their mindsets and taken control of their hormonal situations by doing the Metabolic Renewal program. Metabolic Female is Metabolic Renewal 2.0. There is finally a follow-along program that is done the same genre, the same style of workouts, all new workouts, and even a better system. Back when I built Metabolic Renewal, I built it with a team that was essentially a publishing agent for me. And they put a lot of input into Metabolic Renewal, and it was a great program. But it wasn't exactly the program I wanted to create. Metabolic Female is the complete program. 4 levels, each level 12 weeks long. So there's Metabolic Female 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0 for an entire 52 weeks worth of workouts progressed perfectly for women. And the key thing about these workouts is that they are rest-based. Remember, the female physiology is exquisitely sensitive and refined compared to men. And that makes sense because they are the gender of childbearing. And that makes their metabolism a little bit more stress sensitive and reactive. And so when we build workouts for women, we want to make sure that the workout is individualized for each woman based on where they are in their menstrual cycle, where they are in their hormonal stage of life, and even how they feel that day. That's what Metabolic Female does. It is the only workout system like it in the world today that completely matches the correct intensity so you get enough, but not too much, depending on where you are in your menstrual cycle, where you are in your hormonal stage, and just how you're doing in your life at the moment. Metabolic Female is now available for everyone. You can go to drjade.com/metabolic female, drjade.com/metabolic female to get the brand new cutting edge rest-based training workout specifically designed for women only. drjade.com/metabolic female. See you in the program. Can't wait to show you what we've done. And let's get back to the show. Yeah. And by the way, what's really interesting about this is that, Jill teaches a whole system for business, right? And one of the things I'll say that's really interesting, because, I'm a research geek and, I am always reading stuff. And now I'm very much into the psychology world. And what I've really discovered, if you look at the way you prime people with messagings around marketing, it really is a placebo effect. What it is it's an expectation effect. So there's really cool research. I'll just talk about one right now, but the milkshake study is one that Jill knows about, but you all may not know about. This is Aaliyah Crum from Stanford University, which basically gave individuals, she took them into the lab and essentially said, hey, let's measure your cortisol, let's measure your ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, and then let's give you either a decadent, rich chocolate milkshake or a light diet chocolate shake. And then let's remeasure your cortisol and ghrelin. Well, obviously the people who got the heavy chocolate decadent shake saw their hunger hormones go down and their cortisol go up. And the people who got the diet milkshake saw the reverse, basically. The problem was that the milkshake was the same milkshake. So it was the marketing and the way these milkshakes were labeled that created these hormonal expectation effects.
So crazy.
In the body. And we now know that we actually now know how the placebo effect is working. It's working at certain areas of the brain that create an expectation for a result. Marketing allows us to do that. So this idea that we shouldn't be marketing is absolutely wrong. In fact, I would say marketing is the first way, when we do marketing well, is the first way we get them results because we create the expectation. So I really like this idea of the system and explaining the system. It's a really cool way to think about it.
It was funny. We just ran this fitness program a few months ago called Lean Building, and it was a 12-week program. And I was blown away at how many people, before they purchased it, messaged me and said, what should I do after this? And I was like, what? You haven't even done the first 12 weeks yet. What do you mean? What do you do after this? And I was like, wow, people want to know what the plan is. Mm-hmm. They want to know, they want it to feel organized. Like, okay, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do this second. So if you can create that predictability for your client, they're going to feel so much safer investing their dollars with you versus if they don't know what they're buying exactly, right? If I can create a roadmap for them, they're like, oh, I'm here. It's like you go to a mall and you go to the directory at the mall and it's like, you're here and you got to get up here to go to Nordstrom. It's like, okay, I got to go through all these things. Same exact thing for your potential client. You got to show them where they are and you got to show them where they need to go. And now it's like, okay, I understand that when I invest with you, you're going to take me through up to Nordstrom, right? And so that's really what we're creating when we have a system. And y'all, you all have a system. Maybe you don't know what it is yet, but how would someone feel safe investing with you if you don't talk about it? So this is one of the things that I think Jade does the best. If you guys are on his email list, which I'm sure you are, he constantly is creating little systems, acronyms, frameworks, things like that, and just look at it from the business lens and be like, and that's probably why you guys like it, is because you're like, okay, this makes sense, right? This feels cohesive in a way. And we need to turn around and do the same thing with our clients.
You know, the interesting thing about me too, that is my strong suit, and it's taken me a long way. But I'm realizing as I listen to you talk, right, these other things I don't integrate as well. So I literally have lived off the idea that I have systems, partly because I am constantly reading research and dealing with people, and so I build these things. But I'm not so sure that it's working as well. What I like about this is that this is a business system that allows me to go, okay, this is going to shore up my lack of results, because this single-minded thing that I'm good at is not necessarily reaching everybody.
It is definitely, it's one of those things where it's like, do whatever part of it feels good to you. The next S, the fifth one, is actually called services. And this is probably the hardest for most people, because this is where you have to actually talk about your offers. This is where you have to actually like let people know that you have things for sale. And especially, I know, especially in like the ND world, and maybe it's funny because my brother Brandon is here and he's a dancer, and he's like, dancers just want to stay broke. Like they just they just like, it's so who can be the biggest victim, who has the least money, and so he's like, it's hard sometimes to charge a premium price because it's looked down upon. And I feel like there is this negative connotation with like, oh, you're just trying to sell something, oh, you're just trying to make money. And I'm like, yes, but
Yeah.
also, and it's in exchange for something that's going to change your life. So I think it's really important that this is a whole maybe second episode, but like on the psychology of sales and how to show up and how to talk about your offer. Now we can do like more direct calls to action, like, hey, I have this thing, cart's open, DM me if you want it, I'm taking clients. Like we can have these more direct sales posts, and those are important. But more, if you're a little bit scared to sell, one thing that might be easier for you is just to talk contextually about your coaching. So for example, let's say you have a coaching client that day and you are in the gym or in the clinic, you're on the phone and you just get off the phone with someone. It would be really easy to take to your Instagram stories, face to camera, and talk through what just happened on the phone. Hey, you guys, I just got off the phone with one of my clients and I want to share with you, because this becomes valuable right now too, because now I'm actually adding value when I talk through. This client's been seeing me for like 4 months. When she came in, she wanted to lose about 30 pounds. She was really struggling with her thyroid stuff, whatever. And I want to share with you guys some of the biggest dial movers that we've done together over the last 4 months that have really helped her. It was really cool today because she's down 25 pounds. Like she's never felt better. Closers have been right up. Like it's an opportunity for you to give in real time a case study of a client. Now, it doesn't have to be, this massive transformation like we see side by sides on, sales pages. It can just be one tiny insight. And even though I'm not saying, hey, go to the link in my bio or let me know if you want to coach with me, it's not a direct call to action, but it's contextual. So, for example, if you have an offer, and like, for example, our signature offer at JillFit is called FBA, Fitness Business Accelerator. We launch it once or twice a year and it's open for 4 days. That's it. The card is open for 4 days. So if we launch it twice a year, it's open 8 days. I'm talking about FBA all year long, even though you can only buy it for 8 days a year. And the reason is that I'm trying to build familiarity around the offer. I want people saving up for it. I want people putting themselves on the wait list. I want them putting on their vision board. I want them building anticipation so that when I launch again, they're ready. What I see a lot of people doing is launching something one time and going, oh, it didn't really work. I only got 8 people. And then they throw it away and they start from scratch. Like, you need to build familiarity. Your offers need to have a reputation. And it creates a sense of safety for them. And so you're building the familiarity. I don't know if you know this, Jade. This is actually really funny. It's like applicable because it's election season. You drive around town and you see people with the signs on their lawns. I was just like, what? Like, why do people do that? Especially for like local elections, right? I'm like, why? Like, why are people doing this? These things even work. They've actually shown in research that when people go to the polls, they know like the big guy, they know the president, they know like the big races. But when they have to vote on local elections, people vote based on the name they recognize. That's it. They'll go, oh, I recognize this name. Don't know anything about the platform, don't know anything about the politics, nothing. But they will vote for the name they recognize. So that's how this works. Familiarity alone breeds trust. People go, oh, there's FBA again, and they start to trust it based on just seeing it over and over and over again. This is why we have to talk about our offers.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I'm going to say about the money thing, because I know that's just something that still is out there. It's crazy to me, but I got over my, growing up lower middle class, person. I got over my money stuff by actually seeing, and, I believe this to my core now. So it's just part of me that I can't help people if I can't make money. Right. And it just does not work that way. I have to make money in my business so that I can pay for the business infrastructure, so that I can create the programs, put in the time, and help individuals. No money, I can't make an impact. So people are like, well, I want to make impact. Well, I don't think you can without money. Right. So it's got to be, to me, it's got to be both. It's always impact and money and impact. So I just feel like I want to say that for people, because I think still these are old school, what I would call misguided unconscious decisions, mud that we picked up when we were young, and these money beliefs.
I will also say this, there's always going to be a small percentage of people who will look down on people who are charging something outrageous, right? They'll just be like, wow, I can't believe someone would even charge that, right? And it feels really kind of almost personally offensive to see a high ticket. That's not most people, though. So, for example, if I go to Whole Foods and I'm like, I need to get some vitamin C, and I look at the shelf and there's like 3 different versions, one's the most expensive, guess what? I automatically think it's the best quality. Automatically, right? So like, that's the exact same in coaching.
Expectation effect again. It's a placebo kind of effect.
Totally. And my whole thing is, especially if you're doing a launch, you're going to put in the same amount of energy, whether it's $100 or $1,000. So you might as well charge what you want. People.
Let me say this, Jill, real quick, because I'm just going to say this, and I know you know this, but I believe this again to my core. People who pay more get better results because they believe more. So in a sense, when you see some of these big offers that I do, right? Like, it's partly because I know when you put that money down, you're going to get better results. I make better impact. My business makes more money, and I can make even more impact. So to me, it's a belief effect. Money is a down payment on how much you believe. And I also think as coaches, you want to work with people who believe, and money is a way to understand, do they really believe or not?
I would take that one step further. One of the things we say is the transformation starts with the transaction. I just believe that it does, because you consume free stuff all day long and you'll get some wins. But to your point, you're probably not going to put your feet to the fire until you've made that investment. And I think for a lot of people, they need to invest, not only invest, but invest that's scary to make that commitment to show up for themselves.
No question. You and I have done this. I actually think what we're talking about right now, it goes to everyone listening to this. If you're not willing to spend money on yourself, you are likely not going to get results in whatever you're doing.
It's true. It's interesting. And like, investments become bigger and bigger, right? Like, so if you're sitting here and being like, I don't really have, thousands of dollars to invest, then don't worry about it. There's courses out, people doing amazing work who have courses that are a couple $100. Like, just start with something like that, because you have to start. And I'll probably, you'll probably agree with this, Jade. I think once you start investing, you're just like, that's my value system. My value system is investing.
You and I will see the results you're getting, and you're like, yeah.
Right. And you and I, we're not like, we're not like who are you, like, it's basically like, what mastermind are you in? What mentorship? What are you investing in? When I talk to my peers, it's not, are you investing? It's with who? Where are you going? Who are you learning from right now? And so I truly believe the more I invest, the more I make. That's my personal belief. But I think you need to have that experience for yourself. But
I don't know. I actually can say this without a shadow of a doubt, that I don't know anyone successful in business who has not spent money on mentors, education, etc. I just don't know anybody.
I agree.
But it's hard. I get it. That's why it's really a belief thing. It's not even to me about the money. Money to me is really a spiritual belief system.
So true. It really is. And I think maybe if you're not quite on that level, or I don't say level like in a better level, I just mean like on that sort of wavelength, that you feel like, if you've said stuff like, oh, self-promotion is gross, or, oh, that's sleazy, or you see any kind of selling as sleazy, I think we have a little bit of work to do to realize, like, that there's some limiting belief there. And there's also, something that's going to hold you back, like that upper limit problem. Like, this is going to be where, and you can look around all day, but you're going to breed resentment, because you're going to see people who are less qualified than you, making way more money than you. To me, that's a red flag that you need to be in your power. Like, if you start being like looking at what everyone else is doing and getting pissed, it's because you're not stepping into your power, and you're not really owning the fact that you can help people and charging accordingly.
Yeah, no question. It's a tough one though. So what's the
It definitely is.
last S now? That's
The
the
last
sixth
S
one.
is what's called symptoms. Symptoms post is kind of what we were talking about, like kind of full circle. What we were talking about, we're talking about niching down. A symptoms post is really where you're just calling out some of the biggest pain points or some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you know your ideal client is having, but there's no solution. So, for example, a solutions post would be like, hey, are you a busy mom who literally has not been to the gym in the last 2 months and you're feeling frustrated because your clothes are getting tighter? Here's what I would do. Right. And then you give some kind of solution. A symptoms post is actually usually this does well on like a carousel where you're kind of like having to swipe through. So these would be like 8 signs that something's amiss with your hormones, right? It would be like 8 signs that something is amiss with your hormones. And then like every swipe is like, it's one kind of symptom. It's like you're waking up between, 1 and 3 every night, like or some whatever, right? So like you have these things that are really specific, really tangible, camera scenario. And then the call to action is there's no solution. The call to action is to join the freebie, join the course, DM me, work with me, right? So the call to action becomes your solution is to work with you or to join the free experience or join the thing, whatever. So there's no solution to this. All we want is people to raise their hand. We want people to be like, holy shit, this is me. What do you have for me? And symptoms posts are really great if you are in a promotion of some kind, if you're promoting a freebie, if you're promoting a paid offer, you want to get one-on-one clients. I teach something in FBA called the one-on-one niche launch. And it basically is, I have clients do like 10, 12 grand in like 10 days using this system, but it's really just speaking directly to this person's pain points, not in general terms, but really specific terms. And what it does is this is what we call relevancy language. They raise their hand. They're like, holy shit, this is me. And then they go, I don't even care what you have. I just need to work with you. What is it? How can I work with you? How can I get access to you? Because you're connecting so strongly on their pain points. And when I say pain points, I know people have like a weird feeling like, oh, I don't want to like push on someone's pain point. We never want to be manipulative. But we do need to be matter of fact. Like these things are true. These are factual. So it's not mean to just say it right back to the person. Now you can use qualifiers. You're not saying like, you're frustrated, you're tired, you're, overweight. We're literally just saying, if you're like most people I work with, chances are you're experiencing some of these things. And that way it feels more inclusive and it doesn't feel as like in your face, like you're doing something wrong. And so we just want someone to connect with these symptoms. So this would be like 8 reasons why, 6 signs that, 4 mistakes that you're making, right? Stuff like that doesn't give a turnaround or solution, but just lets people connect. And then what we call this is like a phishing post. What we call this is a phishing post. Like get people to just send you a DM. Like, holy shit, that post is exactly me. What do you have?
Yeah, I love it. And I also think too, the marketing and the psychology is that people are more in touch emotionally with their problems. And so that's why they say in marketing language, you always want to ping or poke the pain because you can't sell someone if they're not in touch with it. So you get them back in touch with it. And then you essentially then you paint the promise. You essentially say, look, I know you have this pain, but here's the promise. So I like that. So can we hear them again? So just so I have it straight in my head, what are the 6 all together now?
Solutions posts, which if you're just getting started, that's going to be your main type of post. This is how you're going to grow. This is how people are going to know there's utility in following you. Are there solutions here? Stories, system, superpowers, services, and symptoms.
Love it.
Those are the
Love
6.
it.
So, and there's no like perfect cadence. Like I think it's just whatever you feel confident. But if you're struggling to post something, I would just post solutions. And then you have to talk about your offers. That's the big thing is like, it's really important that you share even contextually that you do work with clients, that you're good at what you do, that your clients are getting results. You mentioned paint the picture of possibility. And that's where case studies, testimonials, success stories come in, little screenshots that you're getting from clients, like just, cross out their name, throw it right up, and then tell me the story of that client. That's going to be,
number
even
7
though
could be success stories. That's the one
that's
that
valuable, right?
yeah.
Social proof, same thing,
I guess
right?
that goes into stories, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because this makes me think. I go, all right, like it doesn't matter if I'm on Instagram, Facebook, any of these social medias. I can essentially, this system is a really nice system because you can apply it anywhere. And if I'm someone who likes to do more entertainment stuff or education stuff, again, this is a system that I can apply as long as I go, okay, I like these things because you know me, I like structure and flexibility. I like to be like, oh, I can use these guidelines to essentially do this in the way that I do it. And I know we're running up on time and I want to be respectful of your time, Jill. But one of the reasons I wanted you on here is because Jill is running a program that I wanted all of you to know about, so that you could get this information. So before we wrap up, I want you to tell them a little bit about why I wanted you on in the first place to talk about this thing that you have for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So if this is interesting to you, or if you got any like ahas from this and you're like, okay, yes, this is definitely, or you're just feeling the vibe, like you're like, okay, maybe I could learn from something from Jill. The course is free. And it's basically a series. It's called The Profitable Online Coach. We're starting September 12th. So I'm not sure when this is going to go up, but if you guys want to take a look at the show notes, all of the details are in the show notes. There's a link there for you, but this is 100% free. And here's sort of what I'm doing with this is I know there are a lot of folks in the like first couple of years of business. And if you're scrolling on social media, you might see someone saying, you need to build a funnel, or you need to have a podcast, or you need to do a live event, or you need to host a summit. Like there's a million ways to be successful online. But I realize that for a lot of people, it feels so overwhelming and even confusing that there's so many different types of things you could be doing that a lot of people just don't do anything. And so what I'm doing is I'm like pretty much starting my business from scratch, and I'm going to share step by step what I would be doing if I was starting my business in 2024. If I had an expertise, but I did not have an email list, I didn't have a following, I didn't have an offer, I had no experience, it's exactly what I would do step by step to build a successful online coaching business in 2024 from scratch. So it's called the Profitable Online Coach. It's going to be fun. We do 3 different trainings. There's a little bit of homework for you guys to like get you into action and getting you starting to take some action in your business and see how this kind of works. But we're going to talk a little bit more about what we chatted about today. We're also going to put together your offer. So if you are someone who's like, okay, Jill, I know there's a lot of people who have like a fear of success. What if I start getting DMs? I don't know what to sell to people. So we're actually going to put together your offer for you. So maybe you have an offer, we can perfect it. If you don't even know what you would sell, you don't even know how to do a sales call, you don't even know like what would happen if someone wanted to work with you, that's pretty much what this is. So it's for those in the first couple of years of building their online coaching. And I don't assume that you know anything. So if this is you, it doesn't get any more beginner than this, but I would love to see you there. Click on the link in the show notes and we'll see you there live.
Yeah, you know what I love about this? It goes all the way back for Jill and me, because one of the things that we always wanted to do is like, again, impact is, I know this because I've known Jill for a long time. Impact is very important to her, and it's very important to me. We want to make a difference. And because she's doing so well in her business, and this is what's really neat about this style of business, that she can give away free stuff like this, and you all can do this. And then those of you who want to go further get a taste, you get a sample of what it's like to work with Jill. So I highly recommend you do this. You're going to get incredible value, and that is going to be able to help you know whether you want to keep going. So please take advantage of this. Anything else you want to wrap up with?
Well, I was just going to say, this is really important. And I love that you brought up the impact stuff. And I know you operate this way too. You know, you and I put out a lot of free experiences or free resources. And I always go by the mantra, every part of the marketing process should have standalone value, which means like, I want you guys to come to this because I know you're going to learn a shitload. Like, I know you're going to start taking action. I know this happens every time. So it's not even about like, oh, she's going to pitch me or there's going to be some kind of sale or anything like that. Like, y'all are just going to get so much because I want people leaving being like, wow, I feel like I could actually do this. That to me is the only reason I do this, is because I want people feeling impossibility. Like, this doesn't have to be so confusing. Wow, I feel like I really know how to make this work. And people say that to us all the time. So regardless of, you wanting to do a coaching offer, or like however far you want to take it, I really want you guys to come to this just because, first of all, it's 100% free. But the other thing is, like, you're going to walk away with so much. I always tell people, like, dude, like, you're going to be in action. You're going to be taking action. Like, this is like non-negotiable first step, super low risk. And I hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, it reminds me of like it's the introduction to magic, basically. I remember the first time I picked up a self-development book, right? Someone, I think, gave it to me, or I think someone read it. Maybe my brother Keone gave me the Celestine Prophecy or something way back. I read that book and that launched sort of everything. Now, it would be years before I spent money on my own education, but that was the beginning. There was immense value in that.
Yep.
So I love this. To me, this is what it's all about. Thank you so much for your time, Jilly. And for all of you, love you so much. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you on the next show.
Bye, guys.
You have been listening to the Next Level Human podcast with Dr. Jade Teta. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe and consider leaving a review. You make the biggest difference when you pass on your lessons and inspire others. That's why reviews like this are so powerful. Your words may be the only ones that resonate for someone else. Please remember the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only. Always consult your personal physician or therapist before making any lifestyle changes. And finally, thank you for who you are in the world and the difference you make.